want to switch to our next guest, Chase. Hello,
What's
Chase.
up?
We were gonna have screen share things, and then Apple and Windows, they don't like each other. They fight like
Maybe they should do SE on each other to just chill out.
that must
Friends.
be the case. Yes. So I think you're gonna have to go off the cuff without your visuals.
Yeah, well, it's probably for the best. I was gonna do. I don't really mean that actually, but I don't want it to be too much of a presentation because of course I want it to be the back and forth. But there's just a lot of stuff that I wanted to show because this is a scientific claim that can be backed with empirical evidence and sources and studies and all this. So I wanted to show a little bit of the scientific literature by doing a share of my screen, but can't do that. But what I can do is just hold up my phone to the screen a little bit.
Okay, sure. Why the heck not?
It's not as good, but
Can we put links in the chat, perhaps, if there's something important?
Yeah, definitely. Throw any links you like in the chat that people can look up, and you might have to drop them into the private chat, and I will copy paste them into the main.
Okay, sounds good. Can we change the claim real quick though?
Yes, please. Let's change that claim.
Thank you. So it's gonna be let's do a smart vegan diet is healthier than a diet with meat, dairy, and eggs. A smart vegan diet is healthier than a diet with meat, dairy, and eggs.
Can I ask where you're from, Chase?
All over the place, and then some.
Oh, everywhere.
Yeah, I got that southern tang every now and then, and then I also got mad soul, so watch out.
My family all had southern accents, but I'm from Los Angeles.
But you can turn it on. Yeah.
All I got to do is think about some sort of a family reunion or something like that. I'm right there in the South.
And sometimes
get me into trouble because people think I'm making fun of them, but I'm not. Okay, trust me.
But if you're not careful, I'll turn into a Scotsman. All right, if it's not Scottish, it's crap.
That's right. Looking damn good in a kilt there. All right, go ahead.
Oh dear.
All right, a smart vegan diet is healthier than a diet with meat, dairy, and eggs. Looks good.
Okay. So, let's start with yeehaw, Tony says. Let's start with defining some terms. What's a diet?
Stuff people eat, I reckon.
Okay. So is that's what people end up actually eating? They intend to eat, or they plan to eat? I suppose there's lots of ways to say it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So,
I just mean stuff that's going in your mouth.
Okay. So a smart vegan diet is eating only smart vegans. No, that's the other way. Yeah. Tell me what is smart vegan diet.
Before we start this, I would just like to say, if God didn't want us to eat humans, then why'd he make them out of meat?
Right.
You guys are full of protein and you look delicious.
Right.
So are you asking what do I mean by a smart vegan diet? Was that the question?
Yes. What is a smart vegan diet?
Yeah. So basically, what we're talking about after this is about the consensus of these articles of these scientific peer-reviewed journals are talking about just vegans in general. So this could be somebody who eats strictly a whole foods plant-based diet, which would be no processed food, no vegan junk food, right? And that's the healthiest thing. And then on the other end, you got only vegan junk food diet, right? And that's not healthy, just vegan ice cream all day, right? So in the middle is probably where we're looking at the average of vegans, right? And I think most vegans are probably in that middle where they're eating a lot of whole foods like rice, pasta, fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, beans, bread, that kind of thing. But then also throwing in the vegan junk food like burgers and vegan chicken, ice cream, pizza, all these things, candy.
So vegan, you would say that a vegan burger, an Impossible burger or fake meat is junk food?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's got a lot of important nutrients, but it's also got a lot of sodium and stuff like that. But we'll look at a comparison of the ingredients of if I can show it to you of like a Beyond Burger versus a beef burger and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, so basically what I'm saying is a smart vegan diet would basically be not the smartest vegan diet, which would be that full whole foods plant-based diet with no vegan junk food, but smart enough to where you're not only eating junk food all the time.
Okay, cool. All right.
Can I ask a quick question? Or did you want to just do your questions first, Dolly?
No, you jump on it. Dogpile.
I'm just wondering, like, if is any vegan diet is not necessarily healthier than a meat animal diet? It's possible there could be a vegan diet that is less healthy than a meat based.
Yes, because theoretically, on the one end, you could eat nothing but lettuce and Oreos, and that would be vegan, but you're gonna die pretty soon. Okay.
Yeah, French fries and beer are vegan. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Soda and chips and French fries. So, and compare that, like the worst vegan diet compared to the best meat eating diet, which is also going to have fruits and vegetables in it, and maybe the leanest meat and no red meat. It'll just have fish, and what I mean. So you could, and it would only be like you would only eat meat one day a year. That could still be a meat eating diet, but it would be so minimal that it would basically have no real impact on your health.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the quality of the vegan diet matters immensely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And I assume in this case, we're saying we're even comparing that the smart vegan diet, meaning the quality vegan diet, is healthier than a quality diet that includes meat, dairy, and eggs. So
say that again.
If I have a quality diet, one that would fit your minimum junk food standard, but that included meat, dairy, and eggs as a significant fraction of the calories, not just an occasional cheat, that your claim still would say that the smart vegan diet is healthier.
So like a smart vegan diet versus a smart meat eating diet.
Or at least a meat eating diet that held to your junk food standard.
Right. Yeah. So the vegan junk food diet would be way better healthy for you than or less health damaging than a smart or a vegan or a smart or junk food non-vegan diet, because animal products drastically increase your risk of heart disease, diabetes, stroke, cancer, etc.
More long-term effects?
Yes, with long-term effects.
Would there be immediate effects too?
I mean, as soon as you start introducing a lot of saturated fat and cholesterol into your body, then you start building up plaque in your arteries, which is atherosclerosis, which makes it hard for your blood to flow from your heart to the rest of your body and leads to stroke and heart disease. So, I mean, that can take decades, but some people.
So not immediate.
No, but
that part anyway.
It's the same thing with like cigarettes, though.
Okay. Yeah. Cigarettes are a slow thing. Angela, do you have any thoughts, any questions on this?
Well, I was just trying to figure out how we know that meat and dairy and eggs cause those problems and maybe not something else.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's why I'm looking at all of these scientific studies and meta-analyses and everything. So Dolly, can you pull up the link that you just had up that I had sent you, just so that we can all look at a scientific study, not the whole thing. I just want to show, like, pinpoint how to quickly evaluate a study without
1 second before you asked. I had taken that one down.
Okay, it's all good. Okay, so what y'all can see here is this at the. Okay, so there's the title. Actually, scroll up. Thanks. So the title is Red Meat Consumption and the Risk of Stroke, a dose-response meta-analysis of prospective cohort study. So meta-analysis is the highest level of the scientific hierarchy of evidence, because it looks at a whole bunch of different studies. And up at the very top, you see the source, the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, PubMed. All right. If you ever want to look up any kind of scientific study, this is the place to go. There's other places as well. And then you can see there's the authors, and then you see the abstract with the background. Scroll down a little bit, if you will. And you can see the methods and then the results. But look at the conclusion is the main thing that you can kind of skip to if you want just the gist of the thing. There we go. So our findings indicate that high consumption of red meat, especially processed red meat, will increase the risk of stroke. So that's just one example. Now, I have 160 links like this that show the exact, like I'll show you I'll give you the summary of the worst products. Okay. So un momento. All right, here we go. So in summation, the worst thing is processed meat, and then red meat, and then eggs, and then dairy, and then chicken, and then butter, and then fish. Reasons being that processed meat has been shown to cause heart disease, colorectal cancer, esophageal cancer, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, stroke. Red meat.
Do we know the relative risks question here? Do we know how much safer the worst, the least worst? No, sorry. Between the top and the bottom on that list, do we know their relative risk?
Right. So you'll have to go into all of these studies, and I'll gladly, like, anybody can email me at chaseavier@yahoo.com, and I'll send you this list for free, and of the 160, and you need to go into each one of them. But yeah, these studies will tell you, like, they'll say, for example, like, women who ate 2 to 5 eggs per week, which is just a small amount of eggs, 2 to 5 eggs per week, had like this drastic increase in, I can't remember what it was, ovarian cancer or something like this. And it'll give a percentage or something, so they give more details. I don't have all the details for all of that in these 160 studies. Okay. So red, if I could just real quick, let me do the summary real quick, because it's very quick. Red meat, heart disease, colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, esophageal cancer, breast cancer, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, and stroke. That's red meat. Eggs, heart disease, oral cavity and pharynx cancer, upper aerodigestive tract cancer, colorectal cancer, lung, breast, prostate cancer, bladder cancer, all cancer sites combined. Dairy, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, colorectal cancer, chicken cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, butter, heart disease and cancer. Fish would be cancer, heart failure, and stroke, all from pollutants such as mercury and PCBs, and also then high blood pressure and hypertension. So some of these products, like I said, I kind of listed them because, like, not only necessarily in the amount of like the fish, for example, kind of only has a few, it only has a few things, and it might, the amount of fish versus the amount of beef to get those negative effects might be different, right?
Sure. So I'm very mathy. And I make my medical decisions based on actual risk. I think in micromorts, millionths of a death. And so, for example, last year was in the hospital, and I had to choose between getting a PICC line or staying in the hospital for a while. And I did the research and figured out that the PICC line was going to risk me 1 part in 1,000 per day on my life because they're dangerous. But that staying in the hospital was going to risk me 3 parts in 1,000. So I chose the PICC line, and that's significantly high risk. That's a lot of risk. 1 part in 1,000. I'm only going to live 3 years on average with the lower risk option, but it's the right thing. So I really want to understand how much risk I'm taking, as opposed to this is detectably more or detectably less. Do you have any math that I can play with.
And I should have said this from the start that I'm not a doctor or a dietitian or anything. I'm just some dude. So a lot of this is, you got to do your own research after I send you the links and stuff. But what I can give you is a great starting point. So again, a lot of these studies and meta-analyses they're not, some of them are saying, like, I think even the one we were looking at right here, if you scroll up to the top, let me see, the title of this link might be high. Okay, actually, this one doesn't say high consumption, unless that was the conclusion. Can you go back down to the conclusion? Because some of them will say, oh yeah, so this one says a high consumption of red meat will lead to stroke. So that's, so we need to see more about, and in the results, right above this in the results, you'll be able to see the more the math of it, but I don't want to bore everybody with all that stuff right now.
Yeah. We're not coming down to a simple thing. Lisa and Angela, please jump in and feel free.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Would someone following a smart vegan diet not have any of those things? Like, how are you guaranteed, if you follow this smart vegan diet, never to have a stroke, never to have hypertension, never to have a heart disease? Like,
no,
because
yeah,
how
it's
much
not
is
the only risk, because I think
get that right. So, like,
right.
How do we balance?
Yeah,
that?
Correct. Yeah. So what I'll do now is I'm going to send another link and Dolly can post this up for me. So this will be this one right here.
Right here.
Up in here.
Yeah. Tony, I'm not ignoring you at all. Tony has a lot of questions in the chat.
Cool.
And
we'll get to them.
Yeah, we'll get to them. And the one that he most recently asked while you're sending links around is of the people having heart attacks, what are people like that have those heart attacks?
Yeah.
Are they controlling for things like
smoking,
wildly overweight, or other kinds of factors?
Right. So there are other factors that can contribute to cancer, heart disease, stroke, etc., diabetes, that are, health related, like high consumption of sugar. Or, this is one of the things I was saying about don't eat a whole bunch of vegan junk food. Don't eat junk food in general, for the most part, if you want to be healthy, because that stuff's just not good for you. A bunch of oil and shit, salts and all these things. But what was the question again? I got lost.
It was, what are the kind of people that are having these heart attacks? And I think he was asking, are they controlling for these other factors?
Yes, of course. Like that's otherwise the studies would be, ruled out as, unscientific or uncredible. Now, some of the studies might say, or in general, studies will say about any issue, they might say, this isn't the best form. Like, again, I was talking about that hierarchy of scientific evidence, right? And at the top, you got the meta-analyses, but at the bottom, you've just got like anecdotal evidence, right? Which is not strong. And so that's just like surveys, right? So, but they'll write articles.
Anecdotal evidence that black is white.
Well, hold on. I want to clarify what you're using as your definition of meta-analysis.
Okay, so again, I'm just some dude, and science was actually never my thing. So it would be good if we had a dietitian in here. But all I've done here is looked for all of the articles, all of the peer-reviewed scientific literature that I could find about the benefits or negative outcomes of both a plant-based diet and non-plant-based diets. And this is what I've got. For the most part, and there's still more articles out there, but I spent 100 hours compiling this list. So what I'd like to say right here is, let's read this, the position of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, right? So in 2016, they wrote this, and this is the, this is the world's largest organization of food and nutrition experts with over 100,000 physicians and registered dietitians. So this is the place to go, right? And they say that it is the position of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that an appropriately planned vegetarian or vegan diet is healthy, nutritionally adequate, and may provide health benefits for the treatment and prevention of certain diseases. These diets are appropriate for all stages of the life cycle, including pregnancy, lactation, infancy, childhood, adolescence, older adulthood, and for athletes. Plant-based diets are more environmentally sustainable than diets rich in animal products because they use fewer natural resources and are associated with much less environmental damage. Vegetarians and vegans are at reduced risk of certain health conditions, including ischemic heart disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, certain types of cancer, and obesity. Low intakes of saturated fat and high intakes of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, soy products, nuts, and seeds, all rich in fiber and phytochemicals, are characteristics of vegetarian and vegan diets that produce lower total LDL, that's low density lipoprotein cholesterol levels, and better serum glucose control. These factors contribute to reduction of chronic diseases. Vegans do need reliable sources of vitamin B12, such as fortified foods or supplements. Sorry for reading all that to you.
That's fine. That's fine. It most of that goes to your claim. Part of it, like for example, that plant-based diets are more environmentally sustainable, isn't part of your claim.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We could have skipped that.
That's fine. Totally. Okay.
At the beginning, it does say that it is healthy for those people, the groups of people. It doesn't say healthier than a meat diet.
Right. So
an animal-based diet just says it's good.
Yeah, I think a clear inference from that is that if the plant-based diet is nutritionally adequate and doesn't cause heart disease, cancer, diabetes, etc., but a meat diet does, then why get your nutrients from something that's also going to give you all those chronic illnesses?
Yeah. And to be clear, this isn't a study. This is the position of an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
An organization of people that nominally should be pretty well informed.
So Chase, I have a question.
Sure. Let me just say one last thing that, this kind of thing this kind of statement is also backed up by the British Dietetic Association, the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada, the National Healthcare Service. I mean, it goes on and on,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, clearly you've done a lot of research on this. You've done a lot of try to keep it scientifically based, right? What motivated you to start researching this? Did you have an objective to begin with? Or
yes.
What was how did you get started in this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I do care about human health. I'm a human rights activist. That's how I started my activism, was with human rights, like anti-war stuff and whatnot. But then I also became an animal rights activist. So I'm a crazy vegan. And so in my pursuit of saving animals, I have to learn a lot about the dietary, side of vegan diet.
Yeah.
And it also helps to know about the environmental side of this stuff so I can be even more persuasive. And but again, I do care about human health, and we feed this poison to children.
Yeah. Tony says.
So I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Angela first.
I was going to say. Oh, thank you. I'm trying to understand, because I've also had the experience where, we've trusted scientists. So I'm trying to understand how this information that you're looking up is trustworthy, and how do you balance that?
Yeah, great question. So I would be even more confident if I was a dietitian, if I knew anything about science, right? Now I know a little bit, but I was homeschooled by Christians, so I didn't really learn science, 6,000-year-old Earth and all. But anyway, so yeah, there's things that could increase my confidence. Like I had never really read a scientific study until a year ago, when I started, like less than that, about a year ago. And so, and I have, it's hard to understand a lot of this stuff because I'm not formally trained, but I think that you can see the consensus of experts, and that's not appealing to it's like not an appeal to authority, because these are the proper authorities for this issue. And as opposed to like asking a cop about the health benefits of a plant-based diet, just because he's an authority figure doesn't mean he's in this field. So that's an appeal to authority. But this is just looking at not just one expert, but the mass consensus of experts.
Okay. Right. So instead of like a long time ago, Ansel Keys had come out with a bunch of studies, and now we're finding that he cherry picked his data. So what you're saying is you're trusting this because it's not just one person, it's a multitude of people, and they all appear to be at least mostly in agreement.
Yeah. And the methods that they use in a lot of these links that I've provided are, very rigorous methods of experimentation, as opposed to just a poll,
Right. This isn't about individuals' opinions, right. Other than, well, actually, the position paper is, but that's secondary to the question.
Again, that's like a ton of professional scientists in that field, looking at the data, looking at the evidence, the meta-analyses to come to that position.
Tony has some blatant messaging. For people who know SE, messaging is when we're starting to push the alternate viewpoint, and we have to be careful not to jump into debate with that. Tony believes that the AND, I think this is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, have come out and disassociated themselves from this study's position. Notably, this study is dated 2016.
Right.
So obviously there's a time frame potential. Yeah. And I don't have any data to back up Tony's assertion yet.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that they've disassociated with themselves with this study's position. That's like making it sound like they're like, oh, we said something and now we're backing away from it. That's not the case. To the best of my knowledge, this was in 2016. And my guess is that, and I'm open to being shown that I'm wrong about this, but my guess is that the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, probably like a lot of other health organizations or even non-health organizations, might release position on any given thing and have a time frame on all of their positions. Like every 5 years or whatever, we're gonna say, hey, we need to update our position and that kind of thing based on new evidence that comes out, because that's how science updates itself. So I think right now
you're not a bug.
Right. So I think right now the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is saying, yes, right now we don't have a formal position because our 2016 formal position is out of date and needs, but they said they're in the process of making a new position on this issue, but they have to do, they're going to go through all the science again.
Good evening, House of Comments. Thomas asks, which is the strongest factor to your veganism, health aspects or animal harm? And I want to paraphrase and ask, which compels you the most, which persuades you the most?
Yeah, animal rights for sure, but like it's important to know that there's a difference between being vegan or being plant-based, right? So being vegan, like you can be either way, you're eating a vegan diet, you're eating a plant-based diet either way. Those are that's where vegan and plant-based are interchangeable, is this what kind of food you're eating, vegan, plant-based. But veganism is a philosophy against animal cruelty. And in favor of animal rights.
Oh, I see.
And so that's what vegans are.
So vegans and plant-based are going to eat exactly the same meal, but they came at it for different reasons.
Exactly. And so now some people will go plant-based for their health and then become vegan for the animal rights once they start watching slaughterhouse videos and stuff. But or people will go plant-based for the environment, and then connect it all because it's just beneficial for everybody involved,
Mm-hmm. Well, and the original claim that we're talking about today was it's healthier. So we were discussing the health aspects of it, technically. Right.
Yeah, I wanted to focus in on the health today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Is that your main?
That is nice and
you know, guy? Yeah, plant eater. That's Patrick Baboumian.
Okay.
My strength is my compassion.
I'm going to hold my response lest I be objectifying.
Is your main motivation health aspects?
I'm sorry, repeat.
Is your main motivation the health aspects at this point, or is it animal rights, or what's your main motivation that keeps you doing this?
Is the animals for sure, and the environment. Like, we're killing our environment, and I'm gonna do another call in with y'all next week or something about plant-based diets can really help the environment. But yeah, it's all about the animals. Like, the environment only matters because it can help or harm sentient beings like humans and animals. But I mean, and like, you've got the right to eat unhealthy food if you want to, or to smoke cigarettes if you want to. I mean, you might, get more unhealthy and clog up the hospitals, which has a detriment on society. But like, it's usually like, if you're not hurting anybody but yourself, do whatever you want. But once you start harming somebody else, and that includes animals, that's where we draw the line. So, but I do really care about human health. I want people to make better decisions, but I eat a lot of vegan junk food. So
sure. Okay.
We
Angela,
have Tony,
you were going to say something.
Yeah, Angel's first.
Yeah, I had a question that let's say there were two people with the same information, and you came to the conclusion you came to, and the other person came to the other conclusion. How do I want to word this question?
Outsider test?
Basically, yeah, an outsider test. Yeah. How would you come? How did they come to that conclusion versus how did you come to your conclusion? Which I think we know a lot about you. But.
Right. So I would have to, see what kind of person we're talking about, because if we're looking at the same evidence, it would be strange if they came to a different conclusion. So I would think that it would seem that the only reason they would come to a different conclusion would be one of two things. Either they're, not well versed in science and stuff like that, and so they're forming an opinion. They look at the evidence, but they don't know how to interpret it, or they don't really care, and they live in denial. And so they say, and so they disagree that it's that eating animals is unhealthy, or they're a nutritionist. They're a dietitian expert, like the top ranking, the boss of all the dietitians. And so they're smarter than me, and they're looking at all the same evidence, and maybe they're saying, oh, Chase, you fool, you're looking at the evidence wrong because you don't know how to do science. So maybe I could be the buffoon in that situation. I don't think it's likely. I mean, again, if we're looking at the same evidence, because I have overwhelming evidence in my favor. Now, maybe if they were to try to compile a list of 160 links like I did that are counter to what I provided, but I don't think they can, because I tried to find those links to, destroy my confirmation bias.
Hello, Tony. Tony is in the stream with audio, doesn't have a camera handy.
Hey, Tony.
And Tony, your background, there's a bit of background noise. So, no, not a problem. So if you are quiet for a while, hit your mute, and so you can control it, so I don't end up muting you back and forth. So tell us what do you bring, Tony?
I don't know. I think a lot of what Chase said is it's just a lot of it is actually I feel it's I can't say that he's misrepresenting, but rather it's more like half truths in what he is saying. So, for instance, like for example,
you think he has cherry picked his data in order to come up with a positive case? Is that right?
More or less in that regard, yes. And so it's more like, I'll give an example, right? So, what Chase says about like the hierarchy of evidence and meta-analysis being at the top or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a very dangerous thing to be saying, because although meta-analysis has a very strong point in the overall understanding a particular subject or field pertaining to the strength of evidence pertaining in that field, but not all meta-analyses are actually equivalent in the same power structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Without reading the meta-analysis, I wouldn't be able to proffer an opinion as to the actual statistical power of it, because I could make a meta-analysis on the opinions of people about a movie.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't expect that I would have anything other than maybe a predictive power as to how well that movie will do.
Right. So that's a good point. That like in my research there, I was seeing some of these meta-analyses cover like 13 cohort studies with a population, like a sample size of like 100,000 or 300,000, right? And then another meta-analysis will be a review of like 30 cohort studies, so 3 times as more, and will cover like 1 million people. So
yeah.
And then, but also, a lot of these things that I've listed, aren't meta-analyses. There's a lot of different material in this compilation.
I'm interested in the question of how much we should be persuaded by some kinds of data. If I had a meta-analysis with a substantially large N that was correlative in the sense that all they did was observe people and ask them what their diets were and then observe their medical outcomes, and then I had another one that was what's the word, interventionist. In other words, they took a bunch of people that were willing to try on a diet for whatever time frame the thing was running and changed their diet based on being assigned to a group, not based on their own choices. And then looked at the differences between those groups. I would be compelled personally by a much, much smaller N in the second case. It would take far fewer subjects in there for me to get power on the interventional study. Where would you, and I invite all of us to weigh in on this, how much bigger an N in a correlative study would be compelling equally to a much smaller N of an interventional, or would you consider them equal, or maybe even reverse my position on that? And did I just geek so hard that it wasn't understood?
Oh,
for me.
Well, I put myself on mute, but I wanted to say something is that we'll touch on what Chase was saying before. It's like, yes, there's certain type of studies in which they have more power pertaining to the amount of people they actually study in that particular study itself. So not all study are equivalent, but still, like, I don't think Chase truly understood what I was trying to get at, and that is kind of what Dolly is trying to get at, I believe, if I remember correctly. And that is that just because you have associative data doesn't mean that you got to get more associative data at a higher level, because it doesn't matter at that point that it's just quantity. We're looking at the actual quality of the data. And is that it doesn't matter if you have a prospective cohort of 10,000 people. What matters is whether or not the confounded factors are extremely controlled for.
Yeah,
and
for
that's
sure.
at the highest level of what people in this field call randomized controlled trials.
Right.
And so that is what truly matters. If you have a meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials on the mass, then that's what I'm trying to get at what Dolly is saying. That is where you should truly find the associative data in that level to be of bigger impact than just meta-analysis of just pure associative data.
Yeah, so I would urge you to email me and look at this list yourself. And if you can find studies that, like what you're talking about, to give me an example so that I can, update my list and make it even stronger. Or if you have evidence, links that you can send me that show that show the opposite of what I'm proposing, because I can't find them. That's what I'm saying. Like, there are so many position papers and all kinds of different studies with different methods that are all saying the same thing, and nothing detrimental about a plant-based diet. Like,
well, is what you're saying is like all studies are not created equal, obviously, right? Like, there's different types of studies and different quantities and all of that. So you have to put a different weight amount on each particular one and give a lot of credence to one, maybe, and then maybe this only slightly supports what I'm looking for. And I forget where I was going with that, but that's the general idea.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it would be unreasonable for me to be agnostic or lean in the favor of eating meat, dairy, and eggs after 160 of these links when I can't find, hardly anything that says the opposite.
Yes.
Why would I put stock in that other thing? Go ahead.
So Chase, mental note after the show, link me what contact information for you, since you've invited contact, that you would like me to put into the description. I'll do that after the show. For the moment, I have put my email address into the chat, jugglingLessons@gmail.com, and I would be happy to facilitate these connections between people. If you want to send things, you can send it to me and say, hey, forward this on to, and I'm happy to do that. And handshake the communications.
Real quick, I'm going to try right now to just send the link of this document that has the 160 studies that I compiled and maybe you can attach it in the chat. So let's see if that works.
I'll do what seems to work.
Okay, I just sent it to you there in the private chat.
Okay. Oh, it's a Google Doc. Oh, that's going to be much easier.
Okay, cool.
Chase, do you think somebody could want to continue to eat meat just because they like it or whatever, and find the same number of studies or even more, and then send that number of studies to you?
I want them to do that if they can, but I don't think they can do that.
Because but what if they could? Would you change your mind then and be like, oh, I guess I was wrong?
Well, it would make me down to it would neutralize my position, which would definitely decrease my confidence for sure. But if I had 100, if they presented
I'm not saying they would or do, but yeah,
right, but yeah, for sure. But if they were able to present 160 counter links of the same quality, then that would just bring me to an agnostic level, right? Of not knowing which is better or worse, and thinking maybe they're both equal.
Of equal, like credibility and the quality level of the.
Well, studies. No, I mean, equal. The diets would be equal. If the credibility of the studies is equal, then the diets would be equal in theory.
Right. Okay.
And so at that point, then I wouldn't make the claim that a vegan diet is healthier. But I would still say we should stop cutting the heads off of animals.
Right. That doesn't address the ecological, the environmental aspects or any of that, or ethical.
Right.
Well, I like to say that I think we kind of got off hand there, and that is, it's not so much that. Well, I mean, onto the claim itself, I would say that I don't necessarily, for my years of actually looking at studies, I don't necessarily see how a vegan diet is healthier. All it ultimately boils down to is the lifestyle that you choose to make it, whether or not it's actually healthy. And it goes back to the problem of soft science, and that is you can't really ultimately make a causal inference. But that's for another point. The point I'm trying to previously tackle, and that is like Chase said, you have to provide the evidence.
Just 1 second.
Right? It's not so much that I'm providing evidence, it's so much that Chase has to provide it because he's making the positive claim. And so the positive claim that meat actually causes or induces heart attacks and such as that, that's still a hypothesis.
Just went to debate.
It comes to because here's the thing, man.
That's fine, Tony.
Because here's the thing, man.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. We'll cut right here. Okay, because like those weren't questions. Like you made statements in there. You're making positive claims now, right? And so I already, I made my positive claim. I backed it up, right? And you haven't even looked at the evidence yet, and you're already dismissing it. And so I urge you to actually look at the evidence that I presented before dismissing it, and then provide some evidence of your own. You say you've looked at the studies. Give me some links. chaseavier@yahoo.com. I'd love to see him.
Yeah, and Tony, I would love to have you on as a guest with your claim in the future, and we'll hear you out, all of it, and like that. And if you want to have a debate style situation, Chase has a channel and would probably love to do that. And if that means I can help because you need a moderator, I don't know, whatever, I'm happy to invite myself in and barge around and whatever.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I love to see those kind of things happening. And of course, on this show, we have this weird format that we're trying to follow.
Yeah,
thank you, Chase.
Yeah, for sure. And so I would just say if anyone wants to check out more of my videos, Chase Avier at YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Lots of protest videos, me leading marches and all that stuff, rescuing animals from slaughterhouses. Good times.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adding smart definitely is a get out of jail free card because and I like that, because what we're trying to say is that the best informed vegan diet is superior to the best informed meat, dairy, egg containing diet. And that's that one there is not a get out of jail free card. It's really saying the best versus the best. And thank you for that, Felicity. I like that one there.
It's
just a crazy notion here. If I were to say the average or the poorly informed, so I have a poorly informed vegan, somebody who said, okay, I'm gonna stop eating animals because they're cute and have pretty eyes, and all the reasons, and then somebody else who is also poorly informed and eating like a standard American diet. I guess
don't do it,
American. If you compare those two, what would be your opinion?
Again, I'm not a doctor or a dietitian, but if you're eating junk food, and it'll probably be a mix of like junk food and healthy food on each side. We'll try to equalize them as much as we can, right? What you're going to have is, in both cases, is like a whole bunch of oil and sugar and salt and all this shit, right? But on the meat eating side, with meat, dairy, and eggs, you're getting a whole bunch more saturated fat and cholesterol. You're getting heart disease, diabetes, stroke,
that's the
cancer.
problem.
Oh shit, this stuff ain't causing all that. You might still get it if you're smoking and not exercising and all that, or you got bad luck.
Yeah.
That's the unproven claim.
Yeah, that's the claim that Tony's pushing back on. Salvador Dali, fluidity is king. Yes, I love fluidity, and I actually was named after Salvador Dali. Okay.
Gonna say one last thing real quick.
Okay.
Remember that y'all can Google stuff like, vegan protein, vegan iron, vegan athletes, recipes, vegan restaurants near you, or like vegan options at regular restaurants. And, stop asking vegans where they get their protein. Stop it. And if you want to see a quick animal rights video, there's a 5-minute video with 6 million views on YouTube called Dairy is Scary. Dairy is Scary on YouTube.
Okay. The commenter asks about the worst diets. That's almost the question I asked, but in this case, we're talking about even worse than just underinformed. And if someone were eating the examples were Oreos, French fries, and beer, are they going to do worse than if they eat Oreos, French fries, and beer, and burgers, and eggs and cheese?
Okay, so I think what you're saying is like, sorry, I'm not sure if weed is healthy, but
yes.
So I think what you're asking is a vegan junk food diet, like exclusively vegan junk food. Versus
you got a really bad diet and a really bad diet. Which one's going to kill you first?
Well, it kind of like if we say like, okay,
without meat, bad diet with meat.
Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 levels. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Right. So top would be the best vegan diet, right? And medium vegan diet, worst vegan diet. Okay, and then over here, same thing. So worst, medium, best. If you got the worst vegan diet over here, and then if you start going up because you're eating less on the meat side, you start eating less junk food and more whole foods like rice, pasta, fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, beans, bread, things that are vegan, but then you're also adding in meat, dairy, and eggs. It's going to, bring you down a little bit, but you're actually eating vegetables too. So this vegan over here ain't eating no vegetables. So, so it's quite possible that a meat eating diet could be better than a vegan diet health wise if they're on the other ends of the spectrum.
Yep.
Well, and don't we have to factor in the definition of health? What makes someone healthy? Like, what if you eat a smart vegan diet, but you never exercise or you never or you smoke a lot, or I don't know.
Well,
that's a good point, Lisa.
I don't know.
The all sides being equal thing. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's why I'm saying we account for all those variables, equalize all that stuff so that we get actual data.
So the only difference would be the diet.
Right. Yeah. Because exactly. Yeah.
Which sounds hard to do, but.
Oh, it's easy. Man, just buy something else. You're at the grocery store. There's breast milk.
To study sounds hard to do.
You can either buy the nasty breast milk, or you could go like that and buy that sweet ass almond milk. It's vanilla flavors. Good.
I couldn't. I absolutely couldn't, because I looked at the nutrition facts on the back, and it's got too much sugar for my diet.
Have you looked at all the plant milks? Because some of them are unsweetened.
I understand. I also have to avoid having a lot of milk because ordinary whole milk is 1/2 calories by sugar, just from the natural lactose. So even regular milk is off my diet. If I have milk, I have to have like half and half, which is 1/6 calories by sugar. It's an enormous difference.
And it might come as a surprise to you, Dolly, but you're not a baby cow.
Right. Moo.
Oh, come on.
Moo. The link between food raising your cholesterol in the long term is contested, which follows that it may not have had the health impacts you claim. I confirm that it is contested, and that is something that is a big shift going on in medicine. It's one of my top 10 reasons to disbelieve doctors when they say, yeah, but all of my peers think so. So I'm not asking the question. I'm just telling you.
Okay. So I got some of them studies I was talking about, right?
Okay.
So I'll just read the summary of these 3. Yeah. So a number of foods can significantly reduce LDL cholesterol. That's just showing that there is a connection between cholesterol and diet. And several foods distinctly modify LDL cholesterol levels. The change in dietary cholesterol was positively associated with the change in LDL cholesterol concentration. And as we know, high levels of saturated fat and cholesterol create heart disease. No?
I'm wondering how much is being blamed on meat that maybe there could be other reasons for those things happening. Like, could it be like the antibiotics in the meat? Could it be sugar? Could it be salt? Like have you done any research to find out what else it could be?
Yeah, so to some degree, you're right. That could be a factor, but a lot of these studies have been done in other countries where their diet and their health, like their exercise regime, is very different, low smoking, these kinds of things, and you see similar results. Another thing is like the World Health Organization, the WHO, they say that processed meats are a group 1 carcinogen, meaning that they cause cancer. They've been shown to cause cancer, and they're in the same category as tobacco and asbestos. Group 1 carcinogen. That's processed meats. That's sausage, bacon, ham, burgers, chicken nuggets, deli meats. Okay, and then you've got, and then the World Health Organization said that red meat is a group 2A carcinogen, meaning that it probably causes cancer, and that includes all mammalian meat. So that would be, not birds and fish, but that's talking about cows and lambs, and and it also includes deer as well. So they don't make any differentiation between factory farm or free range or whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to mostly shoot my messengers and say, and I need not categories, but actual relative risk before I, even if I thought you were correct, not that I'm thinking that you are necessarily incorrect.
Sure.
Even if I were convinced that they were in the same category, that would not allow me to make my health decisions without understanding the relative risk.
Yeah, I understand.
Because marijuana is in the same category as heroin.
Oh,
categories are not the thing,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And to be clear, just because it's in the same category with the World Health Organization doesn't mean necessarily that processed meats are as cancer causing like as cigarettes, in the sense that they will do it as at the same, but nevertheless they're in the same category, and that's distressing, and so we probably shouldn't give that to kids.
And I'm just gonna throw one last little message in here, and then we get to close out with Chase because our timing, and say that my understanding of the relative risk of processed meats versus unprocessed meats is a 5 to 10 multiple.
I'm not sure, but a lot of these studies say that both are harmful.
That was my message.
Okay, obviously processed is worse. But one thing I wanted to say,
worse, and 5 to 10 times, not a little bit. It's a lot worse than drunk driving.
Okay, but one last thing I want to say for Dolly is, as far as like being swayed to change your diet based on potential harms of eating animal products, I think once you look at these 160 links, that should be convincing enough. If you care more about your health than you do about maintaining your current diet and the pleasures and comforts it brings. But also, I'm not expecting really people to go plant-based or go vegan based off what I just said, all this stuff, because like personally, I find the ethical arguments for animal rights being much more persuasive and long-lasting. Because
I would too.
Full conviction, but it can be hard to accomplish that goal of being persuasive in that as well. But what I wanted to do here is to make sure that everybody knows we don't need to eat animal products. Even if I was wrong that a diet with meat, dairy, and eggs is worse than a smart vegan diet, even if my claim here is wrong, it should be very clear by now that we do not need to eat any animal products. And so therefore, supporting slaughterhouses
to that degree.
Supporting slaughterhouses is needless animal cruelty. I know that's not part of what we're doing here, but that was my goal, is to show that we have no excuse.
Yeah, I went vegetarian or vegan or some number like that for about 2 or 3 years back 20 years ago, and I had to quit. I went anemic.
Okay, so it's interesting because I got articles in there about anemia and how a plant-based diet helps it. So I think a lot of this is just that it was probably a poorly planned vegan diet at the time, because maybe you just weren't informed. A lot of doctors even, they weren't taught a lot about nutrition. They weren't
My
taught.
partner was a doctor.
Okay, but
who was incredibly well informed and was helping me plan my diet at the time. But anyway, now I'm back to arguing, so I'm going to let it go.
That's okay. I just want to say, like, the plant foods have iron, and there's no need. There's no need.
Okay. And apparently I wasn't handling it well enough for myself. But anyway, I don't want to distract the conversation or jump it into a debate. Thank you, Chase, for bringing that claim. Hopefully we've heard everything out. Thank you, Tony, for jumping in and for staying so kind. Tony, you rocked. Lisa, you rocked. Angela, you rocked.
Well, I just want to I didn't want to jump in because it's going to sound like debate. So I just like to take this time to address Angela's point about how, like, what is potentially the causal confounding factors for why people get heart attacks and such. And that is completely different from what Chase is saying. A lot of it, if you just look at the actual data of the people that's dying from heart disease, there's one huge confounding factor that's actually quite common in all of the actual cases, and that is because they are obese. Yep. And that's basically a really huge factor, to the point so that for those who, I'm not going to say Chase is an ideologue, but for those who have different perspectives, it's really hard for them to come to and say, like, it can't just be obesity, it has to be something else. And they're just saying, like, it's meat and stuff. But the data speaks for itself, and that is like one of the common biggest factor. It's just obesity. And it goes back to what I was saying before, and that is take care of yourself and have a proper lifestyle. Because a lot of the actual science in nutrition is, I'm not going to say pseudoscience, but a lot of it is actually soft science. And soft science, you have to understand, can never make any causal inference. And that is one of the actual biggest problem. if you study the philosophy of science.
I think adding the word smart probably covers not being obese. Avoiding obesity. If you've got a smart diet, you're not going to be obese, well, at least in the long run.
And also, I want to tackle something what Lisa said. I mean, Lisa said like it's extremely hard to have such a particular study in nutrition science to actually develop a situation where we actually control for all confounding factors and truly make it about the diet itself that was actually causing all the consequences within somebody's lifestyle. And that's a great point by Lisa. And also, I'd like to also say, Chase, come on, I'll let you talk. I was being respectful.
Hold up, Chase. We will give you all the time to finish.
Yeah. And then also, the second last thing is I'd like to say that there is currently no study, not even the realm of nutrition science, which is hard to make a causal inference. Not a single study actually exists that can demonstrate a vegan diet since birth all the way to age 21. None of that study exists, and so a lot of
we're not going to do interventional studies on children. We certainly have interventional studies on adults, though, right?
Yeah, sure, you can say that. But what I'm trying to get at is that if Chase's position with worldview comes into play, like you can start to wonder about the effects of should we actually put children on these particular diets, and that's going to be a problem later on. And so the thing is that when you start to look into it, you start to see that the diet. Oh shoot! When you start to look into it, like a lot of the bone fracture scenarios are actually quite prominent within people who are actually vegan. But
I got one on osteoporosis.
I mean that part is that, but
Tony, I think the problem is now your messaging is getting gish gallop in that he has a stack of things he wants to respond to. And
last thing, and that is I'll provide a link right here. Phonologics.org, a summary of phonologic study of current and former vegetarians and vegans. And in the study, they actually have created something pertaining to falsifying on whether or not people can sustain themselves on a vegan diet. And that is, they did a particular study that suggests that, consequentially concluded that 84% of the people that went on this diet actually drop out. And so the question becomes, is it really doable at the end of the day?
All right, can I respond to that?
Which is not part of his claim. He didn't say a vegan diet is easy. He did say his claim is that it's healthy. Go ahead.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of social pressure. Okay, there's a lot of people eating animals. So when I went vegan, a bunch of my friends made fun of me for giving a shit about animals, right? Mm-hmm. And they're tempting me, like holding bacon in front of my face. Come on, man, just do it, right? That's a lot of peer pressure. I don't give a shit about it though, right? Because I care about justice, right? But there's also, just every store is selling meat, right? All the commercials re-endorsing this idea that violence against animals is okay, that you have to fight against if you care. But it's possible. And so for people to drop out because of that reason, or for comfort, or because they, a lot of these people went vegan for their health or the environment, not because they care about animals. It's very hard to suddenly go from I think it's wrong to kick or stab a dog to I think it's fine to kick or stab a dog. It's hard to do that. And when you make that connection to other animals, it's hard to go back on them and turn back on them and pick up a knife.
Yep. I want to make sure there's enough room for the other callers. I have House of Comments waiting in the background. Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
And is there any last notions that we want to throw in before I throw you both off the show?
I like to say that I'm not against vegans. I think that you should have the liberty to live whatever lifestyle you want, as long as you're not making a lot of trouble or cause a lot of suffering to humanity. And that's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Well, it is destroying the planet as well, and that affects us.
Yeah,
I would disagree on that. The evidence.
And I would just encourage everybody, if you want to see more about vegan athletes, you can check out The Game Changers on Netflix, The Game Changers for vegan athletes. And if you want to learn about the environmental aspects of all this stuff, you can check out Cowspiracy on Netflix, Cowspiracy.
I feel like we've gone in circles a lot here and over and over. And if you guys debate, like post that somewhere, and people who want to get into this more and hear both sides of the argument, I think that would be really interesting and something for a future show.
Cool,
Maybe
cool.
not a street epistemology show, but a different show.
Right. Not a street epistemology calling. Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye, guys.